Welcome to the Winners and Losers Show. Hello, everybody. It's me, Hank. We're recording twice this week. It's a miracle. Can you believe it? Everything grew back. Everything. I've done yoga 3 days in a row, meditated 3 days too. Actually, 4 days in a row, and now I am the complete picture of human excellence and health. I even have become a supplement bro. Okay, supplements, bro. That's what we supplements bro like to say. That's not true. I just looked up how much vitamin D do I need because I never see the sun. Yeah. Hey, last episode was probably a big downer. I mean, you know, just some guy spilling his therapy phrases onto the internet, and that's fun. I hope it was fun. I hope maybe someone laughed at it too. Not laughed at, but with, because of, you know. But I'm not going to do all that again. Go back and listen to 176 if you'd like to hear a guy talk about autism and other shit and like stress and stuff and what I'm doing to get better. And just a quick update, I'm eating better. Let's get my fingers in the shot. I'm eating better these last 2 days. I am waking up and reading, doing yoga. Did a 15-minute beginner one, horrible. 10-minute beginner one yesterday, not great. Today I felt a little bit more comfortable on my knees. I weigh over 230 pounds, like, or at least I haven't. I'm probably in the 240s. But putting all that, I look at these yoga teachers, especially these like 120 pound women and stuff, and it's like, man, I wish their knees must not. Not that it. I'm not saying it's fair or unfair. It's just that when you're very large, your patella can only take so much. So, but we're getting there, and actually even doing that thing where you sit on your ankle, on your like put your butt on your ankles with your like shins under your thighs. I kind of that seems like something I never would be able to do, but I sort of have been forcing myself to do that a little bit because I do stretch over the last few years and stuff. So I kind of do that, and I'm noticing even after 3 days an improvement, including just doing stuff, getting some shit done, doing a lot of things around the house. I gave the aquariums both a pretty deep cut. Had to trim the bushes down a bit in them and clean them up and do some filter maintenance and shit. So things are improving. Okay. Already some positive signs. The difficulty will be sustaining the habit and getting going into the habit and stuff. But good God, it's so much fucking less energy to like take initiative to propel yourself into a better brain space and something better than the wallowing and the energy it takes to procrastinate and all that. It's a good life lesson that I've learned it over and over and stuff, but it never seems to take. I even figured out how to get my headphones to play my audio. I like hearing my voice through the microphone, through the thing. And so now I got that working, and I'm not going to screw up the audio with the way when we play videos. So we have a bunch of stories to get to. This one's going to be somewhat short. So, you know, mostly strike stuff. I think I got Mitt Romney holding a hot dog. I just bookmarked it a couple of weeks ago, so we're going to watch that. No idea. Diane Feinstein, Mitch McConnell glitching out, and, you know, the Gerontocracy. I think I'm going to ramble about UFOs a little bit. So, yeah, this is not going to be just me doing a therapy session. So, yeah, I don't know. I do want to get to a point with this show where I just don't even think about what I'm going to say and then just start talking. That's like maximum disrespect to the audience. Like I just don't want to even prepare at all. But I do hope that there's a place where that I can kind of just like do the stream of consciousness thing, because that's more or less what I do. Even when I try to prepare comments and stuff, I still flub all that anyway. So it's always going to be that no matter what. A little bit sweaty, honestly. I've been running around this morning. Yeah. So good times ahead. And the beard regrowth project is two or 3 days old now. And I think eventually I'll get healthcare. I think that could be very helpful. Also, it's kind of a hit or miss with the way that you can treat alopecia, if that's even what this is. But the stress reduction project is like, I'm trying to make that front and center. Nervous system regulation and keeping myself and actually slept pretty well last night, even with I almost said fucking cat, even with the beautiful, sweet little adorable kitty coming up for her 3:30 a.m. cuddle session. She loves that. And it's funny. I'm not like annoyed. I don't get like, actually kind of, it's kind of sweet, you know. I don't want the 4 a.m. distraction. That's the annoying part. I was able to get back to sleep, but and then she gets up and leaves, and I'm always also like, you're going? What are you going for? We were just getting comfortable. If I move my body the wrong way, I will snap all of her ribs. So it's not really, but it's very cute. She's such an easy cat to love. Man, I gotta find somebody. Here's my dream for this cat. I'm trying to get rid of the cat. I don't want a cat. She was starving outside my building last year, and I started feeding her, and I fell in love because immediately I saw how, not that I wouldn't have cared about a shitty cat too, but man, she's a nice, darling little girl, and I just don't have any space in my world for a cat these days, or blah blah blah. Fuck. Here's how I know it's a cat. Damn it, it's gone. I just was saying something. Here's my dream for the cat. Optimal family. A loud ruckus is a bad place. She's jumpy. She does that all the time. Look, I'll do it. I'll drop something on my desk here. Here's me. Here's my cat face being relaxed. So like she is real snappy. Not all the time, but I can tell that the streets, her nervous system is dysregulated. You know what I'm saying? Like she clearly has that. So a rambunctious house is no fun. An active house would be great though. She's a real curious little critter. She loves to investigate anything new that comes through. I put some trimmings from these bacopa plants in my aquariums back here, and into a little like plastic jar I had, because I keep jars. It's hard for me to get rid of jars, and they were growing. I put some water in them and stuff, and they can actually survive outside. So I'm trying to whatever. I was just fucking around because otherwise I was going to throw them away. And she's been like murdering those plants. I even moved it, but I didn't move it enough to outwit the kitty cat. But here's the goal for the cat. I want to find her a fun family, parents, or, I don't know, not that it's a strict requirement, but my optimal caretaker is a cool 8-year-old girl. I've just decided there's a lot of cool kids in the world, but a really cool, chill, active 8-year-old girl would just fall in love with this little cat and spend so much time petting her and making her. She's really easy to please. She just likes it when you get down on the floor with her and you just be present with her and all that. She rolls around and buddy kicks this wooden thing that we've got for her. And the reason a cool 8-year-old girl is optimal, well, not there's actually no good, but 8 years old is the thing, because then when the girl grows up and goes off to college around age 18, the cat will die. It's the perfect solution. Cool 8-year-old girl gets 10, the cat's about 7. The cool 8-year-old girl gets about 10 years of wonderful love with this cat. Amazing photos. She's very photogenic. Put it on her social medias, although I honestly, if I were a parent, I wouldn't let my children touch the fucking internet until they were 40. Seems like the worst thing to do to a child as a gift is to put them anywhere near the internet. And cool 8-year-old girl. And then the cat dies when she leaves for college, or maybe during her freshman year. She'll have a rough week, but that's how that's how life goes. Your pets die before you do if you're lucky, or if you have a turtle or a bird. My mom got a cat, and I'm just like, this fucking, which one's going to die first? This, please, Jesus, because her cat died last year, and then she got a new one. I'm like, oh man, just don't. Hopefully they both die of the same thing, The best thing for your parents, way for your parents to die is quickly. Okay? Keep that in mind. It's called compression of morbidity. Look it up. I never have. All right, let's get to the stories. First up, the Mormon saint himself, Elder Romney, did a thing with a hot dog. He writes in a tweet, "To all those celebrating, Happy National Hot Dog Day. May there be many more hot dogs served in our wonderful land." And then he put the emoji for hot dog, which is very similar to the emoji for the eggplant. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? It's in the same angle. It's in the same arousing 45-degree. All right, so he, let's see what he says. Play.
Well, as you all know, today is National Hot Dog Day. And perhaps you also know that hot dog is my favorite meat. I love hot dogs. I love them in buns. I love them outside of buns. I love them with baked beans. But
that describes my sexual appetite as well. Putting it in buns, outside of buns, sure, I've done plenty of that, and some baked beans. Who hasn't experimented?
Like hot dogs. It's the best, best meat there is.
Look at his hat. Look at his hat. His hat's a hot dog hat. This guy is bought off by big salami. He's that Wienermobile. The Oscar Mayer Wiener bus, which I've seen in person, it is very impressive, is dropping off buckets of decaffeinated money for this motherfucker. This guy is definitely being paid by big old meat. Of course, I mean, honestly, there's probably our political conspiracies behind everything politicians do, so I would bet that's true. I do take. Let me get a better image. Let's just listen. He's got to split out on that hot dog. That actually means you did a good job, unless you're a circumcision doctor.
So to all of you who, like me, are celebrating National Hot Dog Day.
You put on a microphone for this. This isn't even the camera mic. Look at this guy. He's really into it.
Congratulations to you, and may there be many, many more hot dogs served in our wonderful land.
Oh, put this cylindrical meat in your mouth, everybody. It's one of the few things Mormons. But see, Mormons, they don't eat a hot dog. They insert it, and then they hold real still while a friend jiggles the bed. And somehow it ends up, and you see it in the throat, that thing where like, and then it like makes a shape as it goes down into the stomach. That's how Mormons eat meat. Otherwise, God would be upset. God would have issues with that. How dare you? I'm referring, of course, to soaking, and I'm imagining doing it. I would definitely do that. I mean, I don't necessarily need the friend jumping on the bed. That'd be fine. If I don't know, I don't know. I wouldn't reject that notion per se, but just holding real still to avoid upsetting God. Why don't you just try that and see what happens? That'd be okay. I'd experiment. But here's the thing. I didn't even know what I was going to say about any of this. Look at how that hot dog is ketchuped. Who goes perpendicular? You go with the grain. You go along the length. I've never seen someone. I'll get behind a wave. Okay, I'll get behind that. I'm a big frequency guy. I love information. I think all the universe, all creation, all of everything is just little vibrations. And it's not like any unique insight. But all that means is that there's detectable difference. All the vibration is that one thing oscillates between one state and the next state, one state and the next state, one state and the next state. That's vibration. Every single thing in the entire universe, including what I believe is the universe itself, eventually becomes will reach. Why am I getting to that? And let's not do that. But everything is information, so I can get why you might want to do that on a hot dog. This is ridiculous. Yeah, Chicago has amazing hot dogs. The snappy Vienna beef things. I don't get into the whole don't put onions on. I don't understand all that. I've had Chicago style hot dogs where they put the radioactive bright green, what do they call that shit? Relish. And the pepper. I mean, I love those. I've eaten tons of those. I used to live in Chicago. And but I also like just onions and ketchup. That's my general jam. And I would prefer I'm a dipper. I don't really like putting sauces on my breaded meats like burger. I like to dip. I prefer a dip. That's a better way to control the introduction. Otherwise it soaks in and kind of, So there's Mitt Romney. Shilling for big cylindrical meats. Good for him. Good for him. Well, you've got another Mitt Romney thing here just because I saw it. Let's see. July 8th, 2023. The previous one was like July. Why am I doing this? Someone on Twitter, Becky Knopp, says Mitt Romney is angry at Trump. Why aren't all Republicans angry? So I think this must be in the wake of him. Although not yesterday. So yesterday, obviously, you heard of the indictments. Trump got indicted for the conspiracy, which is I'm glad for that. I hope they lock him up. It's sort of the whole Trump thing. He's just such a fascinating, not Trump himself, but just the way every single faction of the online discourse people all react. The liberals all get horny for it. The leftists all try to pretend it doesn't matter. In a lot of ways, it genuinely doesn't. But like, yeah, prosecuting, this guy's approaching 100 felony indictments. It's such a perfect encapsulation of just like, it's so on the nose. The writing is actually so on the nose in this whole story that if in 2015, when Trump started running, you would have just jumped towards this year. What is it? 2023. And he's running as a under indictment president. He might even be convicted beforehand, or the trials will get delayed until the election, until after the election. And if he wins, I mean, my God. And then, of course, he's going up against fucking Biden, which is also just the epitome of American liberalism. which is very right wing. So we have these two right wing factions battling for control of the capitalist duopoly here. All right, let's see what Principal Romney says. He's got, remember, this guy just had a hot dog, so he's really upset. He's got his blood sugar's a little high with that horizontal ketchup.
I'm angry. The country is going to go through tumult as a result of one thing. President Trump didn't turn over military documents when he was asked to do so. All he had to do was hand them in. I'm sure his counsel told him, hand the documents in, particularly when the subpoena came. But for some reason, he decided not to. He held on to them. Why? That's the question. Why is the country going to have to go through all this angst and tumult? Why did he just turn the documents in?
It's too much tumult. All this tumult. That's what they call Mormon soaking. It should be called tumulting, wouldn't it? Tumult. That's a fun word to say over and over. Yeah, all right. Yeah, he's mad. Okay, that's a principled Republican. Bullshit. It is. It will be interesting as we keep score of which Republicans come forward. I know Asa Hutchinson is one of the candidates who will always be at the bottom of the pile, but he'll probably get a turn. They all seem to be getting a turn. DeSantis is tanking. He's going to still stay kind of in that second fiddle position for a while. That guy Vivek Shramarami is going to get a couple of turns in the spotlight. But all right, he's angry about the documents. It is a good question. Why? What was the point? Was he selling them? Was he giving them away? Was he like, there's a photocopier in one of those rooms with all the documents, and or was he just showing them to people? There's audio of him showing somebody. I don't have that prepared, but the funny bit of that is just how loud the papers are. Like you just hear yeah, look at all these documents, and you just hear shuffling around. Like it's so ridiculous. The Foley work is terrific. All right, well. Grandpa Hot Dog over here is upset about Trump's documents. He's tacitly benefited and endorsed and directly benefited and endorsed from all this nonsense. So they're all trying to wash. Well, not they're all. They're definitely going to circle the wagons as they enter the only way to. It's really fucking crazy that we allow this. We won't let felons vote, but we will let felons be president. That's our country. That's America. That is just madness. So it'll be really weird and interesting to see. On the other hand, I also understand the impulse to turn away from it and not watch, because it is just kind of the circus that is certainly a distraction from the collapsing environment, which should be everything. Although it's painful to think about. It's a part of the depression and the anxiety stress that I tend to dwell into. So, but yeah, the scientists are freaking out. Finally, they've been, reporting back, but they've been reporting their research and their findings, and we have not listened to them, and we've been led into a much, much more difficult position than we needed to be to save the profits of a few tiny percentage of humanity just for a few fucking decades, as if these people weren't already engaged or already set up for abject luxury until their very end, for millions of years even. But we're going to kill the species for that, and that's more important. The Atlantic Ocean circulation, I don't have the article, or I'm not even trying to do a story about that, but I remember reading about that in the 90s in Scientific American. That's kind of fun teenager I was. That's the ocean currents where the warm water circulates up the northern Atlantic along Africa and up past England, and then it just sort of mixes with the colder water coming off the fresh water mixing from the melting glaciers. And if we disrupt the salinity enough, we can shut down that conveyor belt, which brings all this warmth north. And once that warmth stops reaching England, drastic climate changes can happen. And it's not something we can undo. The Greenland ice sheet is huge. It's fucking enormous, and it's devastating. So, all right, good stuff. Moving on. UFOs. So this is ESRI on Twitter. We're not, this is going to be a little bit, I don't know. I'm just going to ramble about what I think about this stuff a little bit. I don't have the videos. You've heard of the guys playing or at the Congress talking about UFOs. Possibly they've seen stuff. One of those dudes I did recognize, this military captain pilot, Navy pilot, I think. And so because they're sort of like gray-haired white dudes in their 50s and they're serious men, and I suppose there's reputational risk. So it seems like certainly like in the at different times in our cultural world might not take that risk to come forward with this stuff, claiming that there's programs having crashed vehicles, even some biologics, they called it. And everybody's talking about it, and we're all horny for aliens. We've all been trained to be in movies and stuff, and I include myself in that group. I really hope this is true. I think it'd be amazing. Frankly, if they took over, I would probably vote for them, right? As long as they're for Medicare for all, do it smart, bring it down, anal probing for all. I'll even take that. That might be the only medical care that we all get. What a hack joke. But show us some fucking proof. Show some evidence. We don't do this. Isn't the kind of thing you can take at someone's word. It's absurd. Is it likely? Absolutely not. If a government did find something, would they keep it secret? Yeah, probably. Doesn't seem like the first thing a government's going to come forward with. And the way the government funding in these massive systems, these military and, deep state agencies function funding wise, is that it's very easy for money to go flowing towards some program that no one really knows about. They don't, I know the Pentagon, if they audit it, they can't, it literally can't be audited or something like that. They wouldn't want to. There's so much waste. And when I say waste, I mean rich people grifting. Actually, I shouldn't say, I don't like using the word grift. It's not, that word is overused. But rich people just soaking up money from the government in the form of these giant budgets, which we'll get to when we see Diane Feinstein, being told to vote by her handlers for the military funding. But of course she would have anyway, whether, we all know that. So, but what this thing jumped out at me is this infographic here, which is what this account does, or this Twitter thread at ESRI. Just going to hit play. Oh shit, there's sound. Hold on. Reported UFO sightings 1906 to 2014. I'm just going to let this play. One thing you'll pick up on, though, is that it's very USA-centric and England. You'll see a lot of stuff going on. It ends up concentrating very heavily in the eastern side of the country. Looks like some concentrations up by Seattle and LA. England is now showing a lot, and we're in the entering the 80s and 90s, 2000s, I guess. Wow, it really blows up there. I just rewound it a little bit. So there's also spotty lights showing up in different spots, a few around the Middle East, around Israel, looks like. A good bit around Europe. Australia is starting to develop a bit. New Zealand. Oh, we got a close-up of the United States here. I just wanted to stick to this big map. So is the reportings and the kind of presence of aliens on our world something that is more likely to be domestic in origin? Yes. It is far, far, far more likely that there are cultural, and I mean this without a pejorative sense, but cultural delusions. A lot of the stories cultures tell themselves are a little delusional, or at least perhaps rooted in myth, or rooted in some kind of older way of thinking. And then it's like the vast telephone game where it all gets distorted into some sort of narrative. So delusion is a little bit pejorative, I suppose. But look at America and look at England. England and America really are just like two weeds that have just taken over, man. It's just like, what the fuck? These two countries really are sister, brother, sibling countries for sure. And I'm allowed to say that because some of my listeners are English, okay? Over the years, doing Suck Professor, we always had English people for some reason. I'm not even sure how I know that, but I know they have analytics. I never really bothered looking at that shit, but yeah. Shout out to all my English homies. My last name is English, okay? I'm allowed to say this stuff, all right? Although my blood is mostly Swedish and German. But yeah, there's a chunk of English in there too. What does it all mean? Two points then. I'll just try to get through it. The standard for proof for this has to be absolutely gigantic. We need to see videos and photos, and we need to see multiple reports or multiple credible sources for all of those. And even in that scenario, I still am going to be skeptical, because videos and photos can be faked incredibly well these days. We're entering an era, I think this actually speaks more to the overall risks of AI technology and deepfake technologies and all these sort of, special effects sort of stuff, these narrative tools of the broader threat of misinformation, the broader notion that how do we assess reality? We're all struggling with that. Reality is not something that we agree on. Reality, and I think there's a fundamental kind of, in an innocent sense, like once photons and waves enter your eyes and ears, it immediately stops being reality because it then gets filtered through your consciousness and through the way your brain, through the processing matrix of your mind, and then it exists in there. That's what reality is. You detect it, you interpret it. It's that interpretation wall, or I shouldn't say wall, but sieve. It's like a filtration. It's like your brain filters it into what then you experience as your reality. To the best that we can, we should try to inhabit the same realities with each other. I think that's one of the reassuring factors of community, is that you all kind of have a similar story. You all understand each other. You have assumptions. You make assumptions. You resolve conflicts, but you're overall within the same kind of reality with each other. And that's partially, I think, why American society, or at least this online world, with the way we're being boxed up into these different little different little hives, not really, but we're being sort of separated. We're being kind of, by the algorithms, we're being placed into these different things by our media consumption and the way we are prone to thinking about stuff. So, and it's not necessarily a bad thing to find others who share your views and share your beliefs, but they're isolating people into these silos that are easier to manipulate, and then becomes harder to produce solidarity, although they really want people to be as isolated as possible. But I mean, that's among the primary kind of stresses of this world, is that especially with the right wing noise machine and the news misinformation outlets. I would also include the mainstream misinformation outlets, the big ones, the ones that are just part of the Washington churn. Jen Psaki, former White House staffer, is now a host on MSNBC. George Stephanopoulos, very prominent journalist on Sunday shows and shit. He was Bill Clinton's chief of staff. So because governing is basically perception. And so media figures and media characters, people from media often try to enter politics. People from politics enter media, because both of those industries are grounded on how can you control the way people think. That's more or less it. And then there's money motivated in there too. And we allow for-profit media, and we have vast concentration of media, which is absolutely devastating for a society as complex as ours. So they're all, I just totally forgot what the hell point I was getting at with that one. But the fact that those two industries overlap so strongly is indicative of the fungible nature of reality. And that's where I'm kind of coming at this UFO thing. And this is a little conspiracy brain, and I'm not trying to do a conspiracy here, although the world is probably better off that I'm not a conspiracist, because I can certainly come up with some doozies. But this is more like a book premise for like a large sort of sci-fi, near future sci-fi premise. Maybe a big show, maybe just a guy rambling on a podcast like it's happening right now. So feel free to take this and run with it, or maybe I'll write it someday. But what if we got taken over by aliens? There's a huge invasion. We see this shit happening, crazy stuff going on, and ultimately we can't resist. We have to be ruled by these aliens. And then it turns out it's all just a vast conspiracy by states, by governments, who generated everything to produce this conception that a new layer of hierarchy has arrived that cannot be reckoned with. And then where the resistance, of course, in the show or the movie or the book or whatever, they have to have like different people's experiences, and the freedom fighters, humanity has to somehow realize that things are actually, this is what you think you believe is not true. It's all a lie. It's all because they have this, like, among the things that recently with the sightings of objects moving quickly, again, it's far, far, far more likely that there's some sort of technology Well, I mean, most likely is that the way the cameras pick up things, the way optics works, could easily mislead, or plausibly be misunderstood. But it's also much more likely that instead of these being things from outer space that have traveled here, either via the actual expanse of space or through some sort of interdimensional travel, that it's some kind of human-generated thing. It's a little weird that it coincides with the development of drone technologies as well as the development of deepfake stuff, of images and video technologies, special effects technologies, basically. So I'm not going to act like I know what those guys saw or what they thought they saw. I need much more proof than what we're getting for all this, but I could see it. Like, we are so prone to misinformation, I guess, is my overall point. It's like a war of the world. Like, it easily, even if this whole big, that's just more kind of a concept that would be an interesting show to explore. But I think a slightly more likely scenario that could easily pick up steam, although it probably would flare up and then die off. People believe in mermaids. People believe in all kinds of stupid shit, right? Like, people believe in all sorts of nonsense for various reasons. I mean, I think among the reasons people believe in things so fervently is that they're not comfortable with their own uncertainty. I happen to be very comfortable with uncertainty. I'm more uncomfortable with certainty than uncertainty. But a possibility that we, as a society, again, because we're so fractured in the way we consume media, it's not like everybody listens to the same 10 radio stations and the same 3 TV stations like in the 50s or whatever. But like the War of the Worlds scenario, I don't know how much you guys remember. If you're a young one, you might not have heard about it. The Orson Welles, right? Shit, is that right? No, fuck. It was a radio broadcast that was a radio play of a Martian invasion with like sound effects and attacks going on, and it was done as a news report. Again, you can find the audio. It's really fascinating stuff, and I'm embarrassing myself did no prep for it, but I've known of this for a very long time. It's a famous incident, and people who heard it, they trusted what they heard. They thought there was a fucking alien invasion happening. There'd been enough speculation about astronomy. People thought Mars, they didn't know as much as we do now by any stretch, but like, it wasn't like this happened before radio. Like, that's obvious. But like, people were primed to think of aliens coming and attacking. Not to mention just that we're all kind of rooted in the, violence of colonialism and the violence of enclosures and in violence of some foreign entity showing up to take something, that using violence to scare people. Lots of movies surrounding that. And following 2 world wars and following various, I don't even know what year the War of the Worlds thing happened. But so people were prone to believing stuff. Plus, just the inherent nature of humans is trust. And that's because a baby that didn't instinctively trust would have a less likelihood of reaching reproductive age. Babies have to be trusting because they're not done growing. They're completely dead if they're not. They're completely they cannot care for themselves at all. They're so vulnerable, and that's why they have to be cared for so carefully. And people do that, and you grow quickly, blah blah blah. But babies trust is so fucking important. Also, why the trust violations that end up happening to everybody in our childhoods is a part of growing up, but also can be damaging depending on how your trust is violated and stuff. So it's an instinctive concept, and I think it kind of exists in us where humans generally assume that what they hear is true, or what they see on TV. They wouldn't put liars on TV. Look what I knew this one guy that was a big Fox News watcher, and he would say shit like, "Let's see what's happening in the world today," and he would turn on Fox News. He trusted it. To him, that's what was happening in the world today. Fucking moron, that guy too. He had really weird eyes though. He had like Gollum eyes. So people would trust what they hear, or especially if what they hear validates them in some way. If it's a bias validated, if it's confirmation bias. So I really think that we're going to see some kind of War of the Worlds scenario here somehow. Although it really can't have the impact as that early radio thing, just because it's so fractured in terms of the ways we're all being fed. Our photon diet is so widely variable, but it does seem very plausible that it'll happen. Everybody wants this to be true. I would love it to be true. I would love if some little alien things were doing stuff and running around. I doubt that it'd be violent. It seems unlikely. And honestly, my sense, and I've been a very close fan and follower of science and astronomy and stuff for 20 plus, it's always been a thing I've loved to read about. Man, I'm ignorant about so much of it though too. It's such a gigantic ocean of knowledge out there in terms of science and research, and we're really in a golden era of it too. Partially what's tragic about humanity killing itself so that rich people can have Maserati money in millions of years is that we're going to end up not being able to continue our exploration of the solar system in the universe, in the galaxy and stuff. It's sad. It's sad because we can do a lot of cool stuff with what's available, But I think what's more likely than travel, like actually flying a ship here, is some sort of dimensional travel. I don't know why. The expanse of what we do not understand is inherently far greater than we can imagine. So it's plausible to it seems more plausible to me that some sort of technology is sorted out where dimensional travel makes visiting far away regions more feasible than the actual going there. Even if it means you have to point yourself in a direction and then dimension your way there and you're there or something like that. Or maybe, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know. And maybe there's even a third potentiality in that sense. The distances are vast. They are so overwhelmingly vast. The scale is something very few people can get their heads around. And not that I have my proper head. I would actually probably bet I do better than yours. That's a weird thing. But I can understand scale better than you. But I mean, I just love thinking about that. I love getting lost in my brain, trying to fly around the universe and stuff. But so we'll see. We can't just trust a few dudes who have been on the Joe Rogan show and who've been in some documentaries who are claiming that this is out there. And it's also potentially plausible, I guess. I mean, the Earth has been around for something billion years. It was a pretty hostile place in its early billion. Early hundreds of millions, and especially when the moon was formed, because of what we understand to be a second body, roughly the size of Mars, collided with Earth, and that's what produced liquefying both bodies, which was what produced the moon, which accounts for why we have an unusually large moon for a planet our size, and why the moon is made of materials that are found on Earth. It's fascinating shit, but over the several billion years, maybe some object from a far distant developed civilization did make its way into the solar system. That's plausible. It's all plausible. That's what's so fascinating about it. It is the realm of sci-fi, but we have machines that were launched in the 70s that have exited the heliosphere, which is to say they've entered a region outside the solar system where they're detecting a majority of interstellar particles rather than particles that are sourced from our sun, the helio. So I don't know. That's a bunch of words. I actually got to get going, and honestly, in a few minutes here, like 20 minutes or so. So aliens, let's hope, but show us some fucking proof. Moving on. Oh yeah. All right. We can get Mitch McConnell. Maybe I'll do the Hollywood shit later. I got The Rock. Oh yeah, I have this whole thing about this cop that shot himself in the head. That's fucking nuts. There were other cops around. Okay, we'll do that a different day. They gave him his gun. He was already having violent fight with his wife involving a gun, meaning like if a gun's in your hand, you're exposing violence. I mean, it's threatening. And then the cops just let him keep his gun because he's their chief of police. Says this is some cop conference, and then later he pulls over in a car and shoots himself in the head. It's just crazy. Okay, maybe we'll get back to that someday. But anyway, as you heard, Mitch McConnell will go to the place Hank, anything else you want to say? I'm pooping down my leg. I don't think he was pooping. I mean, maybe he was pooping, but I don't think he was pooping. I've pooped my pants, okay? Generally, you can't not do this face. You can't not go. You can't hold still while warm shit's running down your leg. Either it's going to be like clumpy and kind of roll down, or like this wet and drippy and come down all the way down. So that's fun. But anyway, yeah, so the gerontocracy is alive. Alive and unwell. Well, not no. It's close to death and unwell. That's what our world is. These freaks that are just clinging to power well past their expiration dates. These are the same people that I've been watching on fucking McLaughlin group since the 90s. When I was a weird teenager watching political shit with my dad. This is like just insane that these dinosaurs are still here. I don't even think dinosaurs lived as long as humans. Honestly, I don't have any idea how long dinosaurs lived. They were birds. I mean, the birds of today are actually literally dinosaurs that didn't get extincted. So they probably did live a while, actually. Interesting. Let's just watch Mitch McConnell glitch out. I think this is one of the better camera angles of it. This is from a Washington Post tweet. And here we go. This is one of the most powerful people on the planet.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're on a path to finishing the NDA this week. It's been good bipartisan cooperation and a string of...
Whoop, there it goes. It's done. Watch the people behind him, though. I'm going to rewind it. The funny thing, I mean, funny. It's right at the beginning of this too. It's like right at the start. Like he got in about one full sentence, maybe. But watch everybody behind him. The comedy here is just watching. You're going, we're doing this in front of camera. Like he could have had this happen when they were in their hot dog emporium over there in one of these rooms where they have these heavy doors. Government buildings always have really heavy doors. Always like a big heavy door. Yeah, so here we go. He just starts it. All the cameras. It must be so annoying that this happened to them because I'm sure they've seen some shit too. These guys are all covering for each other. They're all gangsters that way.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're on a path to finishing the NDA.
Good.
This week. It's been good bipartisan cooperation and a string of...
Vote. Sparks, springs, gears. Look at him. See, if he was shitting, he would be making little mouth movements. Look at the guy. Look at the dudes. Look at him. Just watch the guy to the left. To Mitch McConnell's right. Watch his eyes. Watch his eyes right here. Uh-oh. Underneath the WP. There's his eyes. What's going on? Oh, shit. Mitch.
Okay, Mitch. Anything else you want to say, or should we just go back to your office? Do you want to say anything else to the press?
Any other demonic incantations you'd like to get across to the press, Mitch? Anything? Any like names of children that we've all murdered together? You're embarrassing us, Mitch. Come on. And so then they wheel him over, or they don't wheel him, but they like walk him over to a little bit, and he just stands. He doesn't really know where he is anymore. Is this a stroke? What happened? I honestly, it's already been a few days. I probably could have found out maybe if it's out there.
Go ahead,
Go ahead, John.
I like that the lady's dressed up for Barbie. Look at people filming. Well, all right, everybody. Sorry, that was our friend Mitch. There, he just hit the blue screen of death. Bill Gates got him. Let's go. Let's just listen to these guys intervene. I mean, he needs help. I'm glad he's got friends around to prevent him from falling backwards. That's always good. Mitch?
Okay, Mitch.
Mitch?
Anything else you want to say, or should we just go back to your office? Do you want to say anything else to the press?
Great.
I'll take that.
Would you trust this man to cut open a package of frozen chicken thighs, defrosted? You could cut it open while it's frozen too, I guess. Would you trust him to use a knife in a kitchen? But we put decisions that are incredibly important in front of him, as if not that I need a healthy Mitch. Not my we would be so much better if he was healthy. He's still the evil, horrible, rotten thing. And one of the benefits of our era, though, is actually we are in the last couple generations of like pre-immortality, like the desperate scramble that the rulers, the Peter Thiels, the the billionaire types, they're all just desperate for immortality because they're all freaked out about death because we have an incredibly unhealthy relationship with our roles within this temporary thing we call life. And they would love to invent immortality. And all of these freaks are the ones who still have to die, even though they get great health care, even though they have the best healthcare money and technology can buy these days. They're still at least not going to get to be immortal. I sort of have it'd be maybe an animation or a rant, or if I were doing stand-up, a comedy bit about how like we should just pause immortality research until Trump dies. Like of all the billionaires, like did the billionaires really want that guy around for 900 years or an eternity? I don't think you necessarily get an eternity out of it, but they could maybe extend life by a few hundred years or something like that while they continue to push. Just hold off until that dude croaks. Okay? Unfortunately, all the attention he's getting from being under trial is probably going to keep him alive because he thrives on attention. What a narcissist's dream, huh? To be the center of attention that way. But at least these guys are all going to croak. Look at them. All right, Mitch. Mitch, we'll do the demonic incantations. Why don't you just go ahead?
Could you address what happened here at this?
Oh, he came back. Yeah, so this is, we didn't have the shot of him being let off. Little tiny steps. With his buddies. Why did they not take him to the hospital? Why did they not get him? Although I think there is actually medical staff in Congress. They get a lot of good old government. Government health care is wonderful if you're rich, if you're getting it for the wealthy, for the rulers, but none of that for you. You've been taught to believe it'll be bad for you. You've been taught that it's not something we can afford. We can't afford that. You have to go find some rich person who wants money and give them more money when you get sick. Everybody who gets sick, every time you get sick, every time your body starts failing, every time you get hurt or injured, those are cash register noises for people who don't need money. That's the system we have, but not them. They don't have to deal with that. Of course, they can also afford to pay for private stuff too. But no, certainly there's I know that they have medical staff in these places. Since Congress is a nursing home, they fucking better. It should be like a really horrible. I've seen some of these terrible nursing homes. I've been in. I was shopping around for one during a time for a family member of mine, and they are criminal. I mean, they should be like future generations would think of these things, these places, as just utterly immoral, utterly just brutal. So anyway, I haven't heard his reaction. So let's hear this back. So he comes back. They bring him back in.
Could you address what happened here at the start of the press conference, and was it related to your injury from earlier this year where you suffered?
I had hot dog bits running down my back of my veiny, wrinkly leg. Little hot dogs drops out of his pant leg right then, grows legs, runs off. little footsteps. Is the mic picking that up? I almost knocked over my coffee, so I didn't want to get too into that bit.
For a concussion, is that?
No, I'm fine.
I'm fine.
You find you're fully able to do your job?
I could do my job just fine. Launches a grappling hook into the ceiling and just like, and then falls straight down. All right. Well, Mitch McConnell is a fucking mess. And guess what? It ain't just unique to the Repubs. It's also the Dems. We all know that Diane Feinstein, especially followers of my channel here, the number one source for Diane Feinstein news. Ken Klippenstein, former coworker, by the way, used to he never was at the office at TYT, but I actually edited this big video. I remember getting this one. I had to include something from him, and everybody got to put a bit. Yeah, so never met him though. What a star on Twitter though. Boy, this guy's got it. He really does well. A confused Senator Diane Feinstein trying to cast her vote for an $823 billion military budget is reminded by colleagues to just say aye. She's 90. She's not running for re-election, although honestly, I think she should. I think this is the representation that 40 million Californians should have. Somebody born in the 1400s who's being held together by unholy magics, some strange paste, some strange herbal paste that has like elf demons, elf souls mixed into it in a crystal. Let's just listen to her. I do like her voice is more robust than I would expect out of a 90-year-old. Honestly, got to give her credit for that.
Senator Feinstein.
What?
Say aye.
Oh, me?
Aye.
I do. She thinks she's at her wedding.
Just say aye.
I would like to support a yes vote on this.
No.
It provides $823 billion. That's an increase of 26.
We could waste a lot of money and burn a lot of villages and kill a lot of people and poke a lot of holes in people and litter the planet with uranium and cluster munitions and landmines because we're a fucking evil empire for this amount of money. All this money, all $823 billion. And the U.S. military is the biggest polluter on the planet. I'm really looking forward to Abby Martin's movie about that. So she starts giving a speech. She's supposed to just say aye. Not that anybody expected her to say no, but this is not the speech moment. Okay? These people are all professional turn takers. And she stepped out of line. Of course, we're all patient with the older folks in our, all right, well, she didn't realize. She doesn't care if she's watching Spanish Jeopardy. She doesn't give a shit. She just likes that it's got those comforting blue TVs with the white letters. Everybody likes a little Jeopardy in the background. I don't give a fuck if it's what language it's in.
Billion for the Department of Defense, and it funds priorities.
A staffer, this guy here, you see him sit up. Watch him over here. See, he comes up. He goes, "Oh God, fuck! It's happening in front of cameras. She's got hot dog pellets running down her backside because her butthole's at the bottom of her neck."
And
there he goes.
it funds priorities submitted.
What demonic incantations?
Just say aye.
Okay, just
say yes, you stupid bitch.
aye.
Thank you.
Senator
Isn't she
Feinstein.
cute? Would you trust her to cut open a pack of frozen pork belly wafers, huh? Or defrosted ones? No, but she's making incredibly important decisions in this society. It's so fucking stupid that California gets 2 senators and Wyoming and all those places. Those guys, the power differential between a John Tester or some South Dakota senator versus a California senator is insane. If you divvy it up, by the number of people they represent. Oh, sorry, it restarted. So let's just watch the intervention here again.
And it funds priorities submitted.
Oh, she tried.
Yeah, just say aye.
Just say aye.
Okay, just
Great,
aye.
Thank
All
you.
right, all right. We'll get some napkins for that applesauce. Don't worry, it's okay. Just leave it on her chin till we find some napkins. Use your shirt. Leave it on her chin. She doesn't know. She's just watching Spanish Jeopardy. The fuck does she care? We love her. We're happy she's safe. Look at this nursing home of a society of powerful people. It's appropriate to be ageist against politicians. Not for ageism in so many other places. I'm entering an era of my life where I am going to be experiencing severe ageism. My resume is terrible. I'll never be able to get hired anywhere. I don't think I'm too old yet, but I'm getting there. So I'm going to be doing this yoga stuff because I'm going to have sex once before I turn 50. That's my goal. Maybe. We'll see. Maybe twice. It's fun to do it in the morning, isn't it? All right. Why not during, don't, it's doing the Randy sex talk during the Feinstein segment. That's not good. That's a bad habit. Yeah. So, by the way, the Oregon Trail was designed around her childhood. She's the inspiration for that game. It's how she traveled back from California too when she came back earlier this year when she went on a mission, crossing the country back the other way. They lost 14 Conestoga wagons crossing the Great Mississippi. Although when the river dries up, they just couldn't. It'll be easier. We'll just build a road down the riverbed. Yeah. So fucking terrible, man. This is really bad. that these cretins, and she's wealthy. Why would they not retire? If I could, I gotta go really bad. But if I could fucking retire now, and I would still probably want to do stuff. I'm not just gonna go watch TV till I die. But if you have enough money to go live in comfort somewhere peaceful, why would you stay in? I mean, is that really how powerful this drug of power is? How strong it is? It's just so bizarre to me. I mean, I can get my head around the notion that people aren't like me. Obviously, that's true, very true. But why would they not be like? It's also because there's an entire apparatus below them. There's all these careers, aides. The closer they get, there's a whole political. Like in all jobs, I guess, there's like a political thing happening beneath them in terms of the career climbers, the ladder climbers. But there's this whole apparatus of vested interests in getting her to vote this way or not. They don't have to deal. Her placement there is bad for the society, but the benefit of it is that a person who they know how they're going to vote is going to vote a way that they've always voted. She's going to be the corrupt corporate tool that she's always been. And not that replacing her immediately would fix that necessarily, but it's a more predictable variable. So she's being manipulated and abused by the power structures. And why would they care? Besides, she gets plenty of air conditioning and comfort. It's not like I'm sure, she's probably a little tired sometimes if they leave her sitting in the sun for 5 minutes, but terrible, man. Horrible society. Okay, I might get back and do some more recording. I'm back. Had to run out for an errand. Okay, we're gonna move on. We're already at an hour here. My goal is to keep it under an hour. Ain't gonna happen. But there's one more story. I teased it a little bit already. Tease is a strong word. I was just clicking on shit. But we're gonna talk about this devastating news in Miami, and then it's actually led me down a little bit of a local news rabbit hole. A police chief shot himself in the head on the side of the road with his wife in the car. But there was a previous incident earlier in the day where he, I guess, was pointing the gun at his head. Sounds like some distress was occurring in a hotel room because this was at some sort of conference thing. The head of Miami police and other police got involved at the hotel and then left him. Meaning like, diffused, I guess. I mean, it didn't escalate there, but they let him keep his gun. And then it winds up with him shooting himself in the head later that day. So here's the headline. This is The Guardian. Head of Miami police shoots himself on busy highway after domestic dispute. Alfredo Freddy Ramirez in critical but stable condition after shooting following earlier altercation attended by Tampa officers. There's definitely a his aim wasn't very good joke somewhere in there. Not appropriate, though, considering the topic. The head of Florida's largest police department was in critical condition at one of the state's hospitals on Monday after shooting himself on a busy interstate following a domestic dispute. Alfredo Freddy Ramirez, director of the Miami-Dade Police Department, and his wife Jody had earlier been asked to leave the JW Marriott Hotel in Tampa's downtown where he was attending a Sheriff's Association conference, a convention of America's peace officers, we like to call them. According to the Tampa Police Department, officers were called to the hotel to investigate a report of a couple arguing and a man pointing a gun at himself. Not a good situation. A statement provided to The Guardian said officers identified the man as Ramirez, but after talking to him and a woman with him, determined there was, quote, no evidence of a crime or immediate danger. So the guy who had a gun pointing it at himself, and the other Sherlock Holmeses showed up, these gumshoes, took a look at it and figured there's no danger here. But they maybe leave the hotel. Don't get it on the walls. Leave the hotel. No danger. Let him keep his gun. I mean, it's another cop. It's a fellow police officer. I'm not sure if they would have allowed a private citizen to hold on to their gun. I don't know what the gun laws are in Florida. I imagine they're probably, I know they're very permissive. I know in Texas it's permitless. I don't track it everywhere in every state. But they're increasingly making it easier for people to get guns who shouldn't have guns. In my opinion, 0 humans on the planet should have guns, but at the point we're at, that's a very much not a goal that's going to be achieved in my lifetime or yours, obviously. my whole thing with guns comes down to I want to create conditions in society in which the feeling of owning a gun or having a weapon stops being logical. There's no longer as logical as it currently seems to be. And I'm not saying it actually is logical. If you include a weapon in a situation, you increase the danger of that situation. You're just adding to the risk factor, and people are more likely to injure themselves or hurt someone they know, or the gun gets found by, those kinds of incidences increase the danger of guns, because there is a fundamental logic of violence that if someone else is going to be violent, you have to be able to match their level of violence in order to feel safe. And I think that sources very, very deeply down into America's roots as a terrified racial terror state, as a colonizing terror state, because we were always at risk of having the people whose land we were stealing show up and maybe commit some sort of resistance to that, justifiably. However, and that means that you need to have weapons. And so weapons equates to safety in America. The Second Amendment, the Bill of Rights in general, I guess, this is probably, I'm sure you could pick this apart. I'm not a scholar on the topic, but it's basically a list of how to solve problems, if you think about it. So the first problems that we're good with is speech. We should try to talk it out first. Freedom of speech is in the First Amendment. I think religion is as well, right? Freedom of the press. So daylight, freedom to worship whatever you want. I am definitely for a government not telling people what they should believe or shouldn't believe. We should persuade people out of absurdities like religion, but also, okay, fine. If you need that shit for your whatever, it's fine. We all have to stick to some kind of narrative that helps us get through this strange thing we call being alive. But then the very next amendment is the one that says that violence is a way to solve problems. And in some ways, that's not untrue. If I have to fight somebody, I would rather be the one who's able to commit more violence than they are. And if I were to live in certain areas, or meaning like if I were to live by myself somewhere out in the wilderness, I think having a gun might make me feel safer, even knowing that statistically I'm probably more likely to hurt myself with it, which is where that kind of like, well, you hurt yourself, it's your fault, it's your individual. And I think I would be fairly safe with it, other than the fact that I've been suicidal in the past, and I actually don't think it'd be a good idea for a person like myself to have a gun around. But I get it. I get the logic. I think that's part, like the whole deal of like, well, you would want to get rid of every gun. You're going to take people's guns, and like, no, there's 400 million guns in America. It's out of the bag. I didn't really actually intend to ramble about guns here, but well, I guess I kind of did. That's what the story's about. So over time, though, like the only hope in my assessment for reducing the gun violence in this country, first of all, we should be passing very much more stricter laws about who's allowed to have guns. It's absolutely insane that we allow this, the school shootings, the mass shootings, all that fear. By the way, very profitable. All that stuff is all stress dividends that pay off for the bosses. If the more you're scared, the more the more you have to cope with those feelings of stress, the less you are able to live up to your potential, which means you're less likely to be a person who stands up to your boss. It's all about diminishing human potential and creating a sense of fear is incredibly useful and efficient way of preventing solidarity. If you're not able to understand another person, and if you're actually taught to be afraid of that person, you're definitely not going to do anything in solidarity with that person. Same reason they don't, the English only education kind of griping that you see over the years, where if someone learns Spanish in school, it feels like a threat to the conservatives. And they, only speak English. We're only going to do one language. And so they judge people who have accents. They judge people who don't speak English the way that's approved. But that's truly about just making sure that an English speaker can't commune with a Spanish speaker and talk about what people usually talk about, which is generally food, the weather, and their kids, and whatever they're doing. Because you'd bond with somebody that if you can't communicate with someone, it's much harder for you to engage that stranger in a way that connects you. But if you speak Spanish and they don't speak English, or if they speak English and and you can communicate, you can communicate with verbal, like hand I mean, it's just so much harder. So we should actually all be learning. I took French in school. Just made a snap decision when it was offered, and I really regret. I wish I had taken Spanish. I understand slight Spanish, but very, very quite not. Point being that the solution to guns, or not the solution even, but one of the only possible avenues besides rationally restricting who is allowed to have access to weapons is sort of like a public relations campaign akin to the way we dealt with cigarettes. Cigarettes are still a problem, obviously. I think cigarettes are, I'm not sure if I would ban them outright, but they are a product that doesn't seem to provide any benefit besides alleviating the addiction that they cause. And they look cool on camera. Got to get that smoky, wispy tail. That's always pretty neat, especially in black and white. So, but over time, Americans have become less accepting of smoke, of cigarettes. It's I think mainly the reason it works is because it's really disruptive to other people. You're actually bothering. It's just gross. It stinks. Planes, people were smoking on. I mean, they really got everybody hooked on this shit. And actually, part of the public relations and mass media. If you watch the Adam Curtis documentary series, Century of the Self, one of the first things they did with Edward Bernays, the nephew of Sigmund Freud, who was sort of the godfather of public relations and mass media and mass marketing and mass manipulation, was they weren't really selling cigarettes to women. They hadn't really opened that market. And he realized, well, there's all these people. They have human brains and nervous systems that we can get them addicted to. And so he staged this event where he got basically influencers, attractive, young, upstanding women, to show up at some kind of thing where he knew there was going to be a bunch of press, or he arranged for all the press to be there and had them smoking. And then that's what gave birth to women becoming addicted to smoking. And it really reached, I don't know when the pinnacle was, but it's tapered down. Cigarette machines used to be available everywhere. We could probably save a lot of lives if we had more strict like labeling laws like they do in some countries, where they put like the cancer-ridden photos of your like rotten out gums and rotten out mouth and all these terrible things on the packaging. That's a way to reduce stuff. But in a similar sense, that might happen if we did that with guns, where we start doing kind of like a public education, public awareness over several decades, during which many tens of thousands, if it's tens of thousands a year right now, and that's going to continue. But we could probably save a lot of lives doing even that. It would never get us there, because it comes down to the number. Like, what's your number? What number of gun deaths are you okay with? My number is 0. How do we get there? And but also realistically, it's never going to happen where we just confiscate weapons and take people's guns. You do aggressive buyback programs. I mean, it is a thing that can be done. And I think too, for sport shooting and for hunting, I grew up doing like I wouldn't say grew up, but I mean, my dad's a hunter. He gave me a shotgun for Christmas when I was 13 years old, and I grew up shooting guns. Like, we weren't like crazy about it, other than giving Christmas presents to 13-year-olds. Not that he let me like keep it in my room, obviously, but I did a lot of skeet shooting, which is fun. So like, guns are fun to shoot. They, there's a very emotional component to owning a gun, to having a gun around. It's like if you. The logic I'm referring to, and I say I want to make it less logical to want a gun, is that it's a feeling of safety. And if you're going to suggest the idea that you give up that feeling, you have to replace that feeling with other safety sources. And this is sort of the socialist concept in my assessment, is that you need to be able to. So how do you get people to feel safe around people they don't know? You have to have trust. You have to have an inherent trust. And the only way I think that you can trust someone is if you know something about them. And what we in America do is we assume the worst about others. We are conditioned and taught to be fearful and to have suspicions about others, to stay out of each other's way, to respect other people too. I'm not saying it's all just one thing, but one way you could build trust is if you have a common story. And I'm going wildly off on this story here. I'm not even close to the article, but you need, if you see a stranger and you want to know that stranger is not going to do anything to you, even if they seem dressed in a way that feels uncomfortable or something, but if you know that their childhood was safe, If you knew that they had access to doctors and medical care whenever they needed it, which means usually in a more developed version of that, people get preventative medicine, people catch their illnesses way earlier. And so they don't, it's like such a much better fucking way of doing things. But if you see a stranger and you have confidence that you and that person share a lot in terms of your origins as a child, meaning that you were protected, you weren't scared from school shooters. It's okay. You should be scared of tornadoes like I was growing up. I mean, meaning that like we did tornado drills, nuclear weapons. We'd like to get rid of those. Let's work on that too. Public relations campaigns. They should put like a picture on the packaging that it comes in. That would work. So you have to, if you're going to suggest that we end the reliance on guns in order to achieve a feeling of security, you have to be able to offer another type of security. And a common story that we're all safe, that our jobs pay well, meaning that our work lives aren't so fucking miserable. I want to maximize leisure, minimize work. I want to, even out the hierarchy. I think a forest is like a healthy model for the way a human species can be conceived. I don't believe in exact evenness everywhere. I just don't think that it works that way. Most of us would probably be fine. I would be totally fine being like a small tree in a forest if I knew that the big trees around me weren't like, because what we do now is we have these trees that reach the moon. We have billionaire trees that are just consuming all the resources around them, desiccating vast regions of the forest below them. It's an unhealthy system. So there's a balance. Nature has examples. And one of the ways that we could prevent a lot of violence is if people who show aggressive tendencies, or like such as domestic violence or even almost any kind of violence, honestly, maybe not a single fist fight or something like that, but people who show violence should not be allowed to own guns. That makes me a radical to say that in this country. That is the most reasonable thing you could do, I can think of. Because they are tools of violence. They're designed to be violent and to intimidate. They're threatening. Their two purposes of guns are to intimidate humans and to kill humans and animals. So in this case, obviously, these cops weren't going to take this guy's gun. He's another cop. He's trained. He's one of them. You know how professionally awkward it would be to actually take this guy's gun? He was only pointing it at himself with his wife in the room. However, back to the article. After leaving the hotel, the 52-year-old Ramirez pulled over on the side of Interstate 75 and shot himself in the head. Chad Chronister, the sheriff of Hillsborough County, which includes Tampa, told reporters that Ramirez's wife was with him in their car and called 911. So it's tragic. It sucks. This guy, something was going on with him. And I looked it up, though. I went to the YouTubes here, WPLG Local 10. Hopefully I'm copyright clear with this stuff. When I was working with Young Turks doing stuff, we were like, there were restrictions on using local news. I guess they're a little bit more copyright, whatever. But I'm not a fucking pretend media organization like TYT. I'm just a guy with a tiny YouTube channel. So I think this will be fine. We'll see if it happens. If they take it down, that's what happens, whatever. But headline, officials investigating what led up to Miami-Dade police director shooting himself. Let's see what the news says. I have not watched this.
Good evening. Off the top at 6 tonight, Miami-Dade Police Director Freddie Ramirez in the hospital in Tampa after shooting himself in the head. The director was in Tampa for a sheriff's conference.
Look at that desk. Look at that thing. Sorry, I just what is this? Command and Conquer, the video game from the 90s?
Witnesses say he got into a violent argument with his wife moments before the shooting. We have live team coverage from Tampa to Miami-Dade Police headquarters in Doral. We begin with Local 10's Annalise Garcia live with the latest on the investigation. Annalise.
Good evening. So we heard from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, which is one of the lead agencies on this case, and they tell us what they know up to now. They confirmed what sources have told us, that this gunshot wound was self-inflicted. They went on to talk about the stresses and how demanding the career of law enforcement is. They talked about Director Ramirez and how he's dedicated nearly 30 years of his life to the safety of Miami-Dade County. This news has shaken the South Florida law enforcement community.
The preliminary, and I say preliminary, investigation shows Director Ramirez suffered from a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
A devastating incident involving Miami-Dade Police Director Alfredo Freddy Ramirez.
Hey, people are wearing masks. People are wearing masks in there. That's actually nice to see. It's a healthy thing to do. You should wear a mask indoors around other people. We're permanent plague society now.
Alfredo Freddy Ramirez left the South Florida law enforcement community in disbelief Monday morning. Multiple sources tell Local 10 he shot himself in the car while along I-75 near Riverview in the Tampa Bay area. We also know his wife was with him at the time. Sources say Ramirez and his wife were at the reception for a conference for sheriffs.
Running to serve as your next sheriff.
He had recently announced
that is so weird. That's another thing. Check out the YouTube channel, Some More News. They did a good video about the sheriff, constitutional sheriff's movement, and you can even just search for other sheriff stuff. Like there's a whole lot of craziness. LA has a sheriff's department that's filled with like gangs. There's a big piece about that a couple years ago, and I mean these things, but they're also publicly elected offices. Seems strange to have that kind of be a politician's job. I imagine that's a relic. It must be of some sort of past thing. But yeah, I mean, there might be reasons why it's not the worst. When judges are running for stuff, I mean, I suppose having the public weigh in on these things makes it, I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing, but it also, because our system is so freaking corrupt with the way money flows through campaign systems, this gives me a lot of reasons for pause. So I guess I wouldn't necessarily say it's always bad to have elected violence officers, but I don't know. Does seem a little bit screwball. I mean, the alternative is they're appointed somehow through people who are elected. So I'm a big democracy guy. I guess. I mean, meaning like, yeah, maybe there's a case where it's not the worst thing. I don't have all my thoughts completely sorted on that, and I actually probably won't for a while. But okay, keep going.
Sheriff.
He had recently announced he would run for sheriff in 2024.
Tampa PD was called to the Tampa Waterside Marriott about a possible domestic dispute.
On Sunday evening around 6:30, Tampa police says they received a call of a male with a gun outside the Marriott Waterside where the conference was being held. A witness told officers what happened, that he saw Ramirez and his wife arguing, and at one point he put a gun in his mouth. Officers spoke to the couple. Tampa police says Ramirez stated he had no intention to harm himself or others. His wife also told officers they had an argument, but she did not have any concerns about her safety.
Shortly thereafter.
What? He has a gun. He had it in his mouth. He's fighting with his wife. Take the gun. Remove the weapons. That's insane.
He pulled off to the side of the road around mile marker 244.
That's when sources tell us the director shot himself in the temple. His wife was in the car. She called 911. Miami-Dade police tells us Ramirez underwent surgery and he is now in serious but stable condition. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement and Florida Highway Patrol are investigating.
Today is a tragic day in Florida and the law enforcement community.
I mean, isn't that the state motto? So yeah, that's just sad all around. Honestly, this is a terrible situation overall, man. I mean, why did they let him keep it? I mean, it would have been problematic for them. I imagine cops are very permissive of what other police do, and taking someone's gun is sort of like declawing a cat, or it's like I doubt they would even consider such an action. But putting it in his mouth, it's got to be at least crossing a line in terms of whether he should be allowed to hold on to it, right? The fundamental point I'm trying to make is this: how irresponsible America is about its guns. These are the professionals we train. We pay them incredibly well. We allow them to bully local governments to sustain their enterprises as that they do in their influence over the societies in which they control. America is a police state. We do not have the freedom that we believe, that we're told that we have. We are required to submit to these people. They should have much more training. I saw this YouTube channel talking about cop stuff, the origins. They come from. This is so familiar story to anybody who's probably listening to this, but they originated as slave patrols, and they were kind of these night watchman groupings that were done to look for vagrants and to look for anybody that needed to be dealt with, and evolved into basically just the tools of capitalists to protect property. And now we're in the situation with the war on drugs and the kind of nationalized slavery that we have in this country, which we call the criminal justice system, the mass incarceration, is just nationalized slavery, which requires armed men to pick people up and put them into the system. This book that I've been reading, I'm looking forward to getting back to it. I only read about a third of it, but it's a Slavery by Another Name, about the convict leasing programs and about the ways that America shifted away from public ownership of slaves to, meaning, like, when I say public, I mean like I meant to say private plantation chattel slavery, to just calling them criminals and coming up with all kinds of reasons to inject criminals, and they use into these systems of providing labor rented out through the government, leased to former slaveholders and industries and stuff like this. It centers around the story of this one guy who was picked up for vagrancy laws and ended up dying in a mine for U.S. Steel somewhere, along with many others, in 1910 or around that time, not like 50 years after the Civil War. So these guys, I don't question the motives of every police officer. I don't think it just means that they're all, the institution is what we should be merciless about and be honest about describing. Yeah, it's a really fucking sick society where this is a thing. And it's one of the best paid government jobs too. Cops make tons of money. The budgets in cities are heavily weighted towards police, towards their violence systems, and that's because these are capitalist societies. That's because we need to sustain the threat and the fear and the ability to protect property. When people, if you're going to draw a line around something, you're going to have to hurt somebody who crosses that line if you choose for them not to be. Not to say that again, for those that don't grasp the notion of private property such as your own home. I'm talking about industry ownership and, all that kind of ways, systems of control. There's probably decent arguments against private property as well, but that at this point in this world, there's no, that's not a negotiable thing as far as I can tell, in terms of what people should be allowed to have personally. It's all about safety and whatever else. Sorry, that sentence got a little bit mangled there. So yeah, let's finish what this guy says here.
Stands with Director Ramirez and his family.
So the Florida Department of Law Enforcement is still collecting evidence.
Okay. All right. Local news is one of the biggest purveyors of upholders of this system too, with the way that crime is reported and the way that, like you just noticed at the beginning, they attribute it to the stress and all the 30-year careers of being a police officer. I got to imagine there are some stresses to being a cop. It's not the most, it's a much more dangerous job than being a cop. Working for fucking Postmates, doing DoorDash. Anybody who has a transportation job, driving stuff around, being a delivery person, it takes way more risks than cops do. They sustain injuries at a far greater rate. They don't get paid anywhere near as well either. And there's tons of other industries and jobs that are much more dangerous too. So yeah, it's a really sad scenario in this country, that the way we do this. I did click on, I am kind of curious about local news places, and it might be an interesting segment to just like look at local news YouTube channels and just sort of see what stories are around. I did find this of a hostage situation at South Beach, Victoria's Secret, which I have not seen this, so let's see what it is.
And good evening. Off the top at 6 tonight, we begin with gripping video that you'll only see on Local 10 News. A man holding a woman and her mother hostage at knife point inside the busy Victoria's Secret store on Lincoln Road. The Miami Beach police officer who responded to the store said he had no choice but to shoot.
The armed man was shot and killed. Let's get right to Local 10's Rosh Lowe live on Miami Beach with the very...
Okay, some guy had a knife at a Victoria's Secret. I doubt he got that knife from that Victoria's Secret. They keep all their knives under lock and key.
Latest. Rosh.
And this is not video from the outside. This is video right from the inside of Victoria's Secret. And that's what makes this video so unique. It brings you right into those moments where a young...
I like this color yellow. Isn't it a nice, pleasing yellow? Kind of a mustard, a little bit, yeah.
Woman is held at knife point. We're told her mom was also held at knife point. And then you see the perspective of a Miami Beach police officer, and he has a few split seconds to save lives. This freeze frame from video inside
Look at that. That's scary. Yeah, I don't need to get deep into this, but you could see this and say, Hank, you just talked about how this stuff is dangerous, but this guy used a gun to save lives. Like, yeah, I know this is what I'm talking about. This is how violence is a tool of persuasion. A gun is an incredibly persuasive tool of violence. All the more reason why the people who we allow to have them should be vetted far more deeply than they currently are. A gun usually beats a knife in a fight. That's absolutely the case. And unfortunately, in a world like we have, where stress is the core function of the economy, chronic despair is really good for profits. The more people are stressed, the more you're going to end up with people making decisions like this and taking desperate acts like taking hostages and doing stuff like that. I have no love lost for someone who did this to these women. It's a good thing that the cop was there to intervene. And he used his gun to do that. But like I'm saying, the training, the responsibility of the power is not commensurate with the power of these weapons, is what I'm trying to get at. Which is why the permitless carry laws and the mass shootings are up in Texas, I think, and road rage incidents where people are blasting people off, and it just means that overall the fear and the danger level is always going to be increased. You never know when someone might have a gun, and the conservative track on that one is to call it a polite society. An armed society is a polite society, they say. By polite, what they mean is that people stay in their place. They want to feel the safety of weapons and feel that people will not but if that were the case, if guns made us safe, we would be the safest society on the planet. We're not. Our children are terrified. We dose them with gun violence, whether they even experience it or not, through the shooter training drills that that schools do for kids, to kids, I should say. I was around a gun that went off without it intentional discharge. My dad had a gun, and it would have been negligence on his part, and it scared my dad too. I remember him actually telling me how rattled he was by that. We were hunting in Wisconsin, and he had us kids with him, and the gun wasn't, there's something, he was messing with it, like trying to fix something, and then it just blasted off without him wanting it to go off. Yeah, I mean, it probably makes my dad sound like he definitely wasn't being careful, and it just happened so fast. You know what I mean? Like, you just don't think it through. Your head's on a thing. He obviously wouldn't have wanted one of his kids to be shot, and luckily none of us was in front of the gun. So it's these things, just if it's around, the chances of it hurting somebody goes up. It's just that simple. But like I was saying, like, if you're gonna offer a world without violence as a means to safety, then you have to offer safety, and we're also not doing that here. So the logic of arming yourself will always make sense to Americans. Like this, like I'm saying, like if I move to the woods someday, which is my dream, I'd probably get a gun. We're the bad decision country. We make it so that the chances that, it's low chance that I'd get home invaded or something like that. But I don't know. I haven't made that decision. I mean, my God, my dream in life is to be anywhere near that. But the horse is out of the barn with this one, though, man. I mean, there's more guns than people in this country. It's fucking terrifying, to be honest. So I did also pick up on this one here. I haven't watched it. North Miami police opening simulator to public. So this is a few cops standing around with somebody whose face is blurred out on the opening shot. But let's just see what this one's about. I think they mean like a shooting simulator.
North Miami police offering the public a critical life-saving lesson.
It's a simulated training course, and our crime specialist, Bridget Matter, got to test it out. She's live to show us.
Come on, Bridget.
The North Miami Police Department, they use technology called the Milo range. It puts you through real-life scenarios that officers on the street may encounter, and we got the chance to check it out.
Hell yeah.
What you're looking at is the Milo Range Police Simulator, equipped with an interactive screen and training guns.
Hey, sir, I need those hands back on the table, sir.
Okay, these are, for those of you not watching, these are those like videos of guys looking at the camera, kind of like a video game with a gun that you like dudes jump out from the sides. I remember those old arcade days. So there's some fun times there. Where you have to make a split-second decision about what to do. And they showed the control screen where you pick. And I think I saw something. Sorry, let me jump around. Wow. Okay, wow, look at this. So this is like a bunch of thumbnails with a word, kind of a caption, lower third at the bottom. The top row, 2 domestic, 3-person truck stop, active shooter suspect in hall, active shooter in CH, can't see the thing, alley robbery. Now the next, this is crazy. The next row, Autism Male in Park 2. What? That's in the police training? I mean, I want police to have vastly improved sensitivities around people who are neurodivergent. I'm autistic. Like, that's fucking crazy. There was a young man, damn it, I can't think of his name. I want to say it was Colorado. He was called, someone called the cops because they thought he was suspicious. He was a violinist. He was like a musician. I think he was neurodivergent. I recall there being something about him saying he's introverted when he was, and the cops got up to him and it escalated. Violence was not happening until the police showed up and escalated it. And the paramedics came and they injected him using ketamine. They fucking just drugged him. Like, so this kid's minding, he's like a 13 or 14-year-old, minding his own business, walking home. Police show up. I'm sure his heart rate, his fear must have just gone crazy. He was an African-American. And it ends with him being poisoned to death by paramedics. And they work hand in hand with the cops in these kinds of situations. And that's the American system. That's an approved thing because he didn't obey exactly right. He paid a price with his life. So someone called the police. This is racism. This is American violence. This is the terror state of American society, is that this kid got fucking murdered by the government because someone didn't want him around and he didn't obey their exact orders. Did they really have to kill him? Was it necessary to end his life? It's just fucking sick, man. Autism Male in Park. Within this, the other row, rest of the row is Bomber 2, Cafeteria Shooter, Car Stop 1, Court Disturbance. Wow. Man, that is just wild. I get overwhelmed so fast. What a horror. Here's the reporter doing her training. So she's getting ready to make quick decisions with her sidearm.
On the table, sir.
The North Miami Police Department uses this technology to keep their officers trained up. I went through several real-life scenarios while another officer had the ability to choose the final outcome based on my performance. Here, a man shot through his hoodie.
Oh my God, that's so fast.
And this was a domestic violence.
Like, the guy had his pocket in like his hand in the main pocket on his hoodie, you know. Wow. And so this is also the way that local news broadcasts fear out into their people, to the so much of local news is about reaffirming racial biases that are in the audience. It's really gross.
Violence call, a distracting woman at the door, but in a split second, a man emerged and shot her.
Whoa! Oh my God! Jesus Christ! There's blood on this. They even did blood splatter on the camera, like it's a fucking movie I would make. Look how much that is. Is that video co-pilot? Jesus, what the?
In debrief, the Milo range shows you exactly where the bullets went.
You see where your shot went?
Yep.
You see where your next shot went? Dead center. As you're going on and as practice is going on, even in a heightened situation, you're acquiring your target. I'm like smiling because I'm, pleasantly surprised by this.
Major Kessler Brooks says training like this is vital for their officers.
Our hope when training these officers is that they learn valuable de-escalation techniques.
Once a month.
I mean, I don't think he's like lying or something, but like de-escalation is the last thing cops do generally. Not that every single interaction with police ends with someone being murdered, but it obviously happens far more than it should, another thing that the police departments have is like public relations departments. They have very well funded press teams and Twitter teams and internet shit. And, they're out there because they play a very political role in this entire system. They're a huge part of sustaining the fucking scam that is capitalism.
The North Miami Police Department is inviting the public to test out this technology and gain a better understanding.
And look, I would probably have fun doing this thing. I'm not saying like everything that's happening here is like the gross or just, but it's all, again, it indicates a society that is completely deranged. This is on the local news.
Situations officers are faced with.
Where they can come in and see things from an officer's perspective.
Wait a minute. Wait, is the blood splatter? That's not what happens when it doesn't land on your eyeball. I mean, I get the point that he's making, but that's a little misleading. I get what he's getting at. I mean, and I understand the notion that, like I was saying, you got a gun is about the best way to fight someone with a gun. It's not, you know, many of our founding fathers engaged in duels with ancient guns, fucking 1700s guns. They were like, you know, some were killed. Not just the founding fathers, but like, it was a thing that people did back then, where disputes got settled via flinging small pieces of metal at high speeds at each other. Can we move on? Like, how is more violence is not going to solve any of the issues that we need to solve as a species to keep this fucking planet working the way it can for all humans. I know that there's no switch that we can flip, just like but man, this is fucked up. Let me try to get back to where that guy was talking. That's about it.
Situations officers are faced with.
Where they can come in and see things from an officer's perspective. They get to go through a similar type training and they get to make a split-second decision.
Right now, the first behind the badge.
So the propaganda message is that you have to understand how difficult it is to be a crime officer or a violence officer, and to, you know, the decision making that they have to make. I don't, even if I could flip all the switches I want to build the socialist utopia, I would like to. We have so much deeply rooted trauma in our bodies and in our systems, in our souls, and our families that get transmitted, that it would take generations to work itself out if we even tried, which we're not. We're accelerating the disarray and the overall fear levels. Although certainly there was plenty of times in the past when the fear was very high as well. And overall, statistically, things are safe in general. I mean, much of what the local news does is they make it seem like things are more dangerous than they really are. They're serving they're basically stenographers for the police departments. You rarely see like deep investigative, like not anti-police, but like good journalism challenging police narratives. They usually just report whatever the police say. And they're famous for lying. Everybody understands that police departments are constantly lying. When news hits, news that activates like public interest and stuff like that.
Experience is underway. It's a class of about 10 to 12 civilians that live here in North Miami.
They should mix that video simulator with the golf simulators. So when a guy comes in with a gun, you just take the driver and just whack him with a golf ball real good.
Tonight at 10 and 11, we'll show you how some of them did through these scenarios.
Now, good job. Thank you, Bridget.
We're live in North Miami. Bridget Matter, Local 10 News.
Bridget Matter. That's a good reporter name, isn't it? Yeah. All right. Well, that's all kind of horrible and depressing. I was getting nervous talking about the gun stuff because people just get so fucking emotional about it. Like, no one's gonna. Don't worry. You'll be able to. Because the whole idea, like the whole point I'm trying to make, is that people equate violence with safety, and preparing for violence is a way that Americans can feel safe, and that is an incredibly damaging way to design and operate a society. All right, that's good. Thanks for watching. Patreon.com/winners and losers. Keep up with the shit. I'm trying to put up, do more and stuff. The major effort lately to get my head on straight and to change my habits and to work on my stress issues. Project Hank Grows His Beard Back is only 3 days old, but it's already showing some promising results. Actually excited tonight to go. I have a small little job I got to go do with doing some cameraman work that I've done a bunch of work here in LA as a cameraman, not in any like major professional shoots per se. I mean, I guess if I get paid, but I don't mean like I don't go to like CSI and like hold a camera. It's not like they're doing that. I'm not an IATSE crew member, but I've done a lot of cameraman stuff. Did a lot of camera stuff at TYT and when I was working for Jimmy Dore too. So yeah, that's good. Actually, get paid for it. I hope my wrists hold up. Honestly, I told the guy, I was like, it's camera work, man. It's hard on your hands. He's like, well, it's on sticks. So it's going to be locked off the shot. I'm like, all right, I could probably do that. I thought, all right, we'll give that a go. So that's fun. Nice. Thanks for watching. Please support if you can. Like and subscribe. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for your kind messages. Shout out to everybody who writes comments and stuff. I do want to do more shows and things. I have a lot to say about that goddamn Witcher. Anybody watching The Witcher? What the fuck is going on with this show? I can't understand shit, man. It's the most confusing show I've ever seen. It's outrageous. It's so confusing. It's upsetting. I'm so happy when it's over. But now now I want to break it down. Now I want to deconstruct why. I would like to make a film class. Not that I have the answers, but what are they? They're doing so much poorly. I have no idea why one scene. Okay, I'm getting into that. You're doing well. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Support other avenues, other elements of safety in the world, so that we can disentangle our emotional beings from using violence and the preparation of violence for safety. When we can also be safe by building a common story around humanity caring about other humans. I know, such a radical, such a fucking what an insane concept. And at some point in our lives, it'll never get to where we want, but we still should fight and at least argue for it and stuff and whatnot. All right, well, that's good. Okay, goodbye. I'm gonna go charge my phone. See you later.